Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this meeting of the Somerset Berkley Regional School Committee to order at 6:35 p.m. Due notice having been posted. Let the record show that this meeting is being electronically recorded. And if anyone in the audience also wishes to electronically record this meeting, you should notify the committee at this time. Any such recording may be subject to reasonable restrictions imposed by the chair to the extent permitted under the open meeting law. Roll call. Mr. Larrabee?
Here.
Mrs. Gagliardi?
Here.
Mrs. Field?
Here.
Mrs. Rothwell?
Here.
Mr. Botello?
Here.
And the chair is present. Mr. Ghilarducci is unable to be with us this evening. He had a minor medical procedure. I shouldn't say minor, but he had a medical procedure today. He is at home. He's doing well. Received an email from his wife. But we wish him well. Also with us, our Superintendent of Schools, Jeffrey Schoonover, our Director of Business and Finance, Lindsay Abernaz, our Director of Special Education, Lisa Martesian, and is Mr.
Liz is coming in now. He almost left.
Okay. And also with us is our Recording Secretary, Robin Vaccaro. And we expect that Elizabeth Haskell, our Curriculum Director, will be joining us momentarily. I would ask every...
Student representative.
Yes, we're going to take care of it. I would ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is, the next scheduled meeting of the committee will be on Wednesday, February 13th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. at the Somerset Berkley Regional High School Library. The first item on the agenda is executive session. We usually schedule it first to accommodate the town administrators if they plan to attend, but as I understand it, neither of them will be here this evening, so I suggest we defer that for the time being and move on to student achievement, teaching, and learning. And the first item that we have on the agenda is consider approval of Distributive Club Education Clubs of America State Championship, March 7th through 9th, 2019. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Maisie Magoni. I'm the co-vice president of our Somerset Berkley DECA chapter. We are here tonight to ask for permission to attend the State Career Development Conference from March 7th through March 9th.
My name is Julia Travassos. I'm a senior at Somerset Berkley. I'm the officer of our school's DECA chapter, so I'm on our public relations committee, which we assist in doing different things with the chapter to help out. So what you have in front of you is a folder. Inside you'll see copies of our permission slips, a tally of all of our results from our first place to sixth place winners, and then you'll also have a price breakdown sheet. So in there it just outlines the prices for this trip. It's a 3-day, 2-night trip in Boston, Massachusetts. The registration and meal cost is $244 per person. This includes all of the different meals that were served there, as well as just anything registering with the competition. And then in addition, that fee will be added to our room rate, which is, as of right now, $240 per night, which is 2 nights. Each room will be a quad room for 4 students, so we'll have that price being split into 4s. So per night it will be $60 for the room, or $120 for the entire trip. So this $120 added to the $244 brings the total to $364 per student. This price can be lowered as we, as a chapter, sold DECA calendars, which many people in our community purchased. We raffled off different businesses from around our area and gift cards, different things like that. And that price, if a student sold all 10 of their calendars, they get $50 off of their price. So for some students, it'll be $314, while for those who didn't sell the calendars, it will be $364. Do you have any questions for us?
I want to say, great job in putting all of this together. Having the permission slip listed, plus I think you went a step further in putting the field trip request copy in the packet, because that's something we always ask is, did you have this clear with the principal? So excellent, kudos.
Thank you.
Is it, how does this group of DECA members going to this competition compare with previous years?
So this year our rate actually went up. Last year it was 58% of students that we started off with moving on. This year is 60%. We have 70 students moving on, or 69.
69. So you have more students moving on.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Keeps growing.
Yes.
Very good.
Are there any other questions from the committee? I think the committee is generally quite familiar with this request. We've had it several years in a row. Congratulations to everyone who is moving on. It had a significant number of first place winners and significant number of second place winners and third, fourth and fifth, and sixth.
Yeah.
I was at the initial competition as a judge. It was a very interesting experience. I enjoyed it. I think there are others here at the table who might have been there on different days, but I will entertain a motion to approve our DECA chapter participating in the Massachusetts State Career Development Conference in Boston.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Field and seconded by Mrs. Gagliotti. Is there any discussion? In the absence of further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ayer, did you want to make a pitch for judges for the,
If there's anyone who wants to go to Boston, they're looking for judges. They're always looking for judges. And then we also have
Well,
the
that's
mock.
what
We
I'm
also
sorry.
have the mock competition coming up. That is on the 27th of February. We did it last year in the library. There are people looking for judges. There's Lissy Tennyson is in charge of judges. Marge has farmed out all duties to different students. So, yep, you might be contacted. I don't know if you have been by
Yes.
yet. Okay.
Yep.
Have you been contacted?
Yes.
No, I'm asking Mr. Pierce. Have you been contacted?
I'm not sure. I'll have to check my
You
email.
gotta check your email. By the way, you mentioned the results. That is the most first place we've ever had.
Fantastic.
Last year was 3, I think, maybe, or 4. And I was happy with that 14,
That's
first
fantastic.
place. So we did very, very well.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so next item is student representative report. And our student representative, Ryan Fishman, is Silverman, I'm sorry. Silverman is not here this evening, but we do have a student representative, that Mr. Gilladucci invited, and to report to us. So if you would just introduce yourself.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So my name is Grace Siddell. I am a Somerset Berkley Regional High School junior, and I went to Berkley Community School and Berkley Middle School, which is what I'll be reporting on today, and the happenings at those two schools. And so I'm going to be summarizing the principal reports that were given over the past month, and some little extra things that I'd like to add. So feel free to listen. So first off, we'll start at Berkley Community School. Our grade 4 students participated in the Hour of Code during the week of December 4th in the computer lab. Ms. Damasio led the students through games and activities and introduced the basics of computer coding skills. The students loved it and were very successful, and coding is now a new updated technology curriculum for all students in the grades. On December 10th, our Momenta consultant, Grace Marie Greeno, joined Jen Francisco, the principal of Berkley Community School, for a full day of walkthrough visits. They were very impressed with what they saw. They were great evidence of BSRI-based strategies and strong student engagement. Our early childhood programs had many special winter activities prior to the break. Preschool had winter performances where they sang and demonstrated activities. Kindergartners took an imagining ride on the Polar Express and enjoyed the story and treats. Grade 1 classes enjoyed doing workshop-based activities, which allowed them to go around different classrooms. And 4th grade students had a winter concert, which involved recorder playing, bell ringing, and singing, which all seemed to enjoy. The MCAS tutorial program assignments have been distributed to the participating students. English language, arts, and math groups will begin during the week of January 21st. The winter administration of DIBELS and the grade assignments is underway and will take approximately a week and a half to complete. The assessment team meets with grade level teams of teachers to discuss the results of the assessment for every student and to engage in instructional planning, and this will happen at the end of January. Also, winter extracurricular activities have started, such as sign language, baking, science, Lego club. Also, winter instrumental music lessons are underway as well. And lastly, the PTO will meet on January 9th. They're planning some exciting events, such as a school-wide roller skating night and a Mardi Gras dance. So that was from Jen Francisco. On to the middle school from Kimberly Hebert. Our mid-year DIBELS program in grades 5 and 6 is occurring early in January. They continue to monitor the students' process in the area of reading fluency. Interventions have been in place since the early school year to address individual students' needs in order to help them succeed going forward. Ms. Andrade and Ms. Cortez had a mid-year check-in presentation with all the students in all grades, and just reviewed classroom expectations, bullying, dress code, all that fun stuff, and it was seen to be well enjoyed by students and staff, which we love. The Bay State Momenta Literacy Coach will be here to do an on-hand to-do collaboration and classroom walkthroughs and meetings with the teachers in the month of January, so just so they can continue the great work that they've been doing, just to sharpen up on some skills. Our BPTO Activities Committee is busy as always, planning ways to celebrate and recognize our students and staff for the great work that they do here. They are currently working on a winter fundraiser to support the Camp Borndale efforts, and they are planning their next social event for January 11th and 18th, as well as some exciting opportunities for the spring. On Saturday, January 19th, Stella Fernandez, a BMS 8th grader, is chosen as this year's ambassador to represent the school at the Governor's Project 351, and she will participate in a day-long community service event with 350 other middle school students from across the state. So she was chosen by her teachers for her commitment to education, service to others, humanity, integrity, great personality qualities. Our PBIS leadership team will attend 2 days of training during the month of January, gathering helpful strategies, and Ms. Hebert and Ms. Francisco will attend another Soul of Leadership course this month, so they can enhance and sharpen up their skills as leaders in the school as well. Early February, the Somerset Berkley Regional High School guidance and academic departments will come here to the middle school to talk to students about choosing their classes and thinking about what they really want to do next year. Our 8th grade parent orientation night will be on February 6th, which is a Tuesday. More details are to follow. And basically, there are going to be some new changes in the high school schedule, and so this will be discussed with students and parents at this night. Other than that, basketball is doing great. It's on to their 8th season as part of the Massasoit League. The theater group here is working on their production of Willy Wonka Jr., which will be held on February 8th, February 9th, and February 10th. And individual music lessons have also been conducted here, as well as different extracurricular activities, such as art club, newspaper club, homework help, and lastly, ELA MCAS remediation classes begin this month to help provide additional support for the students who scored the not average or low ELA MCAS scores. And so lastly, Mr. Ghilarducci wanted me to mention some of the students from Somerset Berkley who have made Dean's List this year at their college. You might recognize some names. From University of New England, we have Sean Pilling. From Dean College, we have Tyler McAloon. From Dean College, we have Madison Duggan of Berkeley. From Becker College, we have Sarah Ellis, who is pursuing a Bachelor's of Science degree in Criminal Justice. And we have Hannah Ann Holtman from Husson's University. And so I'd like to thank you for having me here and hearing me out. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our updates for us, please.
And ordinarily, we would take up our Students of the Month toward the end of our meeting, but since we have one of our Students of the Month here, we're going to recognize and congratulate the Students of the Month for December of 2018. Carissa Amaral in Mathematics, Jacob Biello in Engineering Technology, Michaela Janskovich, I hope,
I think that sounds.
World Languages, Ashley Kang in Science, Sean Kennedy in Art, Elizabeth Orlando, Music, Thomas Rose in Wellness, Josephine Smith in English Language Arts, Nicholas Taylor, Social Studies, and last but not least, Julia Cavazos in Business. So, congratulations.
Thank
and,
you.
Pleased to have one of our Students of the Month here at our meeting tonight. All right, the next item on the agenda is to welcome our new Director of Learning Support and Social Emotional Learning, Elizabeth Coogan, who is going to talk to us about the Guidance Department vision.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. May I?
Sure.
That young lady's a tough act to follow, but
Yes.
I'm gonna just try to keep it simple. You can take it.
Okay, I'll pass it down. Thank you.
Just to go over our vision and some talking points. So first of all, thank you so much for having me, everyone. I appreciate being here with all of you, and very grateful for this opportunity to be working at such a wonderful school with phenomenal students, parents, staff. Very grateful for this opportunity.
Great.
Would you like me to start? I'm sorry.
Yes, go
Okay,
right
so I was asked or invited to attend to really talk about our vision, myself as a new director, again, Elizabeth Coogan, and the vision that we're developing. So it's actually very simple in my eyes where it comes to social and emotional learning, and that is to improve our students' academic achievement, guide them to higher education opportunities and career success, as well as support their growth, development, and lifelong well-being. So as a new director, new team member, as I like to refer to us as a team, there were a couple of things that were very visible to me. And as I met with the administration, talked to teachers, students, and parents, it was that as a team, as a counseling team, we needed to be more visible, more accessible to all our students, including our teachers in supporting their academics, and also in the community. So one of the things that I've been talking to consistently with our team of counselors is to do just that. How can we be accessible to all students, work more effectively in our day, and participate in all school activities, even if we have to kind of delegate, you know, who goes where when, but also to make sure that we are present and visible. In order to do that, I felt that working together, collaborating, sharing ideas and strategies, sharing experiences was very important, and that we do this as a team collectively. So those were really two key points for me right from the get-go that I said, this is what we should be about, being accessible, being visible, and working as a team and collaborating together for the benefit of our students. I want to say that there is a great team there. People are very open to new ideas, to change, to some challenges that I'm putting forth to them, and it's always about, okay, so how do we get this done? You know, it's a good attitude. It's not, oh, I don't think we can do that, you know. So although change is hard, I want to say that I feel that everyone in that department is really open-minded, willing to learn, roll up their sleeves, and work really hard. So I'm proud to be on that team with them. Oh, this Nick. So some systems that we've started to implement.
Sorry, I'm Lee. I've never been here before, so I went to like 3 different places.
Yeah, driving is difficult this evening, so understand. I'm sorry. So some of the systems that we're implementing are that students are now encouraged to make appointments to see the counselors. So you may ask, well, that's different, or why are we doing that? Okay. A couple of things. It tends to be a very chaotic place when it's just a drop-in. And I was starting to observe that that system was happening. Students were just dropping in at any time. And there is good and bad to that, so let me explain a little bit. What I was noticing is students were missing class and they were there for a long period of time. Although they came down with permission, there was no time frame allotted for how much time they were spending with the counselor, exactly why they were there. So it could have been a very small reason, something that could have waited for another period, a study, something like that. But students took it upon themselves to come down at any time. The other thing was when there were students that were in more, let's say, a crisis situation or really a serious issue that they needed to deal with, the counselor may have been tied up with something of a minor situation, let's say, versus dealing with the situation at hand that needed to be. So we thought about, look, okay, how can we solve this issue? One, not having students miss so much time in class, and also being more effective and organized with our time. So they all have computers, laptops, the Chromebooks. They can all contact any counselor by email, and that's what we're asking students to do. And this way, we know exactly who's coming down when. Counselors can now arrange their appointments accordingly to priority, and also time management, making sure that students aren't out of class for a long period of time, and also giving the respect and the courtesy for the students that they're with. So that way they can allow the time that's necessary to deal with the situation at hand, be it an academic situation, a counseling situation, something that they have to kind of triage to send up to a higher, perhaps the adjustment counselor. So we just felt this was a more effective way to manage the counseling department, and I have to report that it's working beautifully. At first, students were like, oh, I have to make an appointment? Yes, please, make an appointment with your counselor. If this isn't an immediate situation, come back during the study or another time when we can speak to you and really give you the attention that you deserve and to be heard. It also is good for the counselors to manage their day, to see how many more students can they see, rather than just having students drop in and out. So we have students sign in when they are doing that, and our counselors are also keeping track of how many students they're seeing on a regular daily basis. The other thing we talked about, again, as being as effective as we possibly could in reaching as many students as we could, is to make classroom presentations. There are a lot of things that are repetitive that I felt and was hearing back, as feedback from the counselors, that they were spending time with the students talking about schedules, talking about how to apply Common App for college, basic information to our seniors. And again, all right, so how can we be more effective and reach the masses, if you will? And that's really pushing into the classrooms. It also gave us some support because teachers know the students well. They can help us with some feedback and supports for recommendations for these students. It allowed for other students to listen to what some of the other struggles that students have or questions that they may have and share and collaborate together. So counselors are now going into classrooms, they're presenting information for students, so students are also better prepared. So when they come down to the counselors, we've kind of had them do homework, if you will, meaning which schools are you applying to, not just sitting there trying to figure that out for the first time. Have you researched any of this information? Talking to them about the Naviance system, which is the school portal and the student portal where they load all the information for schools. So these are some of the things that we're trying to work through, implement, and see if we can be more accessible to all students. It's helped, again, with time management and documentation, and we're also now asking all our counselors, including adjustment counselors, to document, if you will, their time with students, who they're seeing, and with confidentiality, keep a track of the reason why in a centralized location, and that's in the Aspen portal. Because if there is a crisis situation, if a student is missing something over the weekend, administration can now log into the system. All the information is there, the latest information, who they've spoken to, who they met with, the time, And even in a sensitive nature, it can be the reason, which can give us some insight when we're helping, with security, a parent, whatever it may be. And so we felt that this was a proper and confidential way to log in. And again, it helps the counselors realize what they've done and follow their track for the month. Another system or something that I felt was important, and as a team we discussed in length, was coming together on a weekly basis as counselors and having our meeting, a weekly meeting, an agenda, we've posted a timeline in the conference room to go over that timeline to make sure that we're on target for what we need to do for our students. And we have some good discussions. We have some challenges. We have some pushback with each other on what to do next, what to prioritize, and how we can better reach our students. The other thing we've established, which is not new, but we talked about a more, again, effective and efficient way to do this, was each counselor was assigned the duty of collecting information and resources for each grade level, if you will. And it was difficult that they were working alone. They weren't always sure what to get for information, let's say for the seniors or for the juniors or even for the freshmen. So we've started discussing some of this and gathering information in our content meetings as counselors and putting together a monthly newsletter for all classes. Because that way the freshmen can see what's upcoming for the seniors. The seniors can see what we're doing with the junior class and vice versa. So the information is centrally, again, located in one document. We upload it to our website. We send it out email to all of our students, and we also have hand copies in the guidance department. If you haven't seen the newsletters, I encourage you to take a look at the newsletters, and any feedback that you can give us for improvement or suggestions or anything like that would be great as well. So counselors as first responders. Are there any questions so far? I feel like I'm talking a lot, but if there are any questions, I apologize. If you want to, okay, thank you. All right.
Is there a way that the members of the committee could be put on the email list for the newsletter?
Absolutely, absolutely. I do have some samples if you'd like to look at them as well. They're not pretty copies like we normally have because I just printed them out, but I'd be glad to share them with you so you can take a look at them.
Maybe Robin, could you send the list of the committee's email addresses?
Thank you. So I call our guidance counselors our first responders, okay? We are all trained, licensed counselors that can deal with social and emotional growth, mental health, and again, prioritizing the situation for what is necessary for a student should be our responsibility. So I felt after speaking with them and talking this out that many issues that could be resolved, frontline as I call it, were often submitted to our adjustment counselor and for more therapy or crisis. Looking at the numbers and really assessing how many students that both adjustment counselors are seeing on a daily basis was enormous. It is overwhelming. They've also taken on counseling for students with IEPs that have that written as a goal in their IEP, so counselors do have a lot of time with them, the adjustment counselors. So we had a great conversation with the guidance counselors, and in order to establish relationships, get to know the students better, really understand, again, the social emotional part of this and their growth, it's not just academics. And these counselors are well equipped, well, experienced in doing so. And as the students come to us, that is their primary responsibility. Assess the situation with the student, what it is they need. And they could be coming like, they had an argument with the brother this morning, and they're upset and they're not ready to go to class. Well, this isn't an adjustment counselor thing. We don't send them off to the adjustment counselor. You bring them in and you counsel these students, you support them, you have the empathy, you listen, and then you help triage their own situation to get them ready and see if they're ready to go back to class, giving them resources and supports and whatever they may need. If it becomes a situation where it's more severe, that they feel that the student is in a crisis situation at the moment, needs more therapeutic supports, Then, yes, they refer it up to our adjustment counselors, who then take the student, and their expertise is exactly that. But I think we're seeing more and more students in the counseling department with the guidance counselors, and again, addressing the immediate needs of our students and being able to assess better what the priority is or the needs of the students to refer to the proper supports.
Have you noticed that there's been a positive impact on the caseload and the time that our adjustment counselors being able to spend with the other students that might need a little more?
So yes, we're getting there. It's not perfect yet. It's a balance. So I think that they're finally saying, okay, this can happen. This is a better way for us to do our jobs every day and see as many students as possible. Because again, assessing what one type of counselor does over what another counselor can do, and the numbers, right? So there are 4 guidance counselors and myself that can easily see any student that walks through our door, assess what the situation is, triage it if necessary, and send it to the adjustment counselor where there are only 2 of them. And yes, it can be an overwhelming if they're dealing with even one student that's having a severe trauma that day. Their whole day could be taken up. So it is important that it's all hands on deck, as I call it, like all hands together helping all the students. So I thought it was also important for us to start to look at implementing strategies and ongoing supports to specific grade levels. Seniors, it's definitely a big year for them, right? And it seems like, he's just nodding, yes, he knows. A lot of time is spent and needs to be spent concentrating on our seniors so that they get the best opportunities, advice, supports, and resources that we can give them. But the seniors are 1/4% of the school, correct? Our juniors have just as important issues coming up. Our sophomores that are trying to figure it out and are just kind of like, moving along. What about the freshmen? And all brand new experiences for them. Every single one of our students are in different places, needing different supports at different times. So we came together and we said, all right, so how do we monitor this to be more effective, to make sure that we're reaching all students? And that was to look at specific things that could be done for the students per grade level. So for example, freshmen, we do a pretty good job in the beginning getting them acclimated to the school, right? We do technology night, we have different tours, we're doing family open houses, things like that. But what about throughout the year? And we shouldn't just be meeting with students when they have an issue or they need advice. We need to get to know these students and develop the 4 years and make these connections and contacts with them early on. So one of the things we're implementing this year is to start student breakfast. We started with a breakfast, then a lunch, and we're back to the breakfast. And I have to be honest, we're back to the breakfast because they're getting omelets and they're loving that. So what we're doing is each guidance counselor bi-monthly is identifying 4 to 5 students and recommending them to come to us and join us for a luncheon or a breakfast. At this time it's a breakfast. And it's really like a round table. All the counselors come, including the adjustment counselors. We make a brief presentation about ourselves, our background, and why it's important to make these connections and keep in contact with these students. But most importantly, it's for them to get to meet other people that they normally wouldn't. So they're coming together from a study and all different classrooms. So they get to share, they have to, we do a little bit of an icebreaker, right? So they share some information about themselves, what classes they like best, which classes are not their favorite, what they might do differently, any clubs or activities that they're involved in, and I have them kind of push why they're involved in that club to maybe get someone else interested. And then at the end, it's a little treat. They get a starburst and they have to, depending on the color, they have to report something else. So something you don't know about me, or some, what my favorite aunt, I don't know, whatever. Like, we come up with something that, again, is a little icebreaker at the end as well. It's a way for them to come and socialize, see each other outside of the school classroom, get to know and meet other students, but for also us to tap into them as far as their interests, make connections, and hopefully they feel more comfortable accessing the guidance department or their counselors when they do need us as a resource, academically or otherwise. And they're having fun with that, so we contacted Jason from the school luncheon program, and he's been wonderful. So he comes to these forums, he prepares omelets, the students get to choose what they want in their omelet, and they eat. It's a little social, and we're feeding them breakfast at the same time, so it's fun activity for the freshmen. For our sophomores, we're looking to do an interest inventory with them. We've done this through advisory, and we'd like to do it with them again in the spring. I think it's scheduled for March, to see again where they're at academically, what are they facing as far as challenges for themselves, what are they looking forward to in their future, and selecting classes for their junior year. So we would also like to implement something at the end of the year for them, you know, some fun activity to get them ready for the big league junior year, you know, that type of thing, because it's a growth year for them as well. So we're looking into that. Juniors. For the junior class, there's a lot going on, and they seem to be the class that's involved in everything. Every time we speak to a junior, they barely have time because they've started driving, or they have a part-time job, and you know, they're babysitting or helping out. Community service for the junior class seems to be huge. They're always involved in things. So we are trying to make time for them to start to think realistically about college, career choices, pathways for themselves, and have some serious discussion with the students. Again, with the juniors, we're pushing into classrooms. We're starting these discussions early with them. We're doing junior interviews after making the presentations, calling them down one by one so the counselors get to know them and get them starting to think early about college choices, where they want to go. The thing that's new this year that we're implementing is we're actually trying to do college tours with the juniors.
Oh, great.
What we have seen is that not everybody has the same opportunity to do college tours. So as a senior, we're asking them to start talking about colleges, and yeah, they've heard of UConn, or they've heard of BU, or, you know, but they haven't really had an opportunity because families don't always have an opportunity to tour all those schools. So if we start early, maybe in the junior year, our vision is to do small tours, perhaps a minivan, take 11 or 12 students that are very interested in a specific school and take them on a tour with the counselors following behind, get them exposed early, answer any questions, so that way they can make informed decisions if they want to apply to that college. We have 2 that we're looking at right now. We're trying to do one in-state and maybe one out-of-state. Our first 2 schools that we've selected is Northeastern University, and taking students up to Detroit Northeastern. And we've also looked at a school in Rhode Island. We were like back and forth with URI, the University of Rhode Island, or Rhode Island College. And I think we're gonna, because of the reciprocity with tuition rates and whatnot, we're gonna do Rhode Island College for the students. So we're looking to start our first tours in March. We hope to have a couple every month and get as many students participating in that as possible.
I think that's fantastic.
I'm sorry?
I think that's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just early exposure, as I meet with seniors and talk to them, you know, they have great ideas. There's wonderful schools they want to go see, but everything is, I read it online, or, you know, I'm not too sure. So probably exposing them and giving them an opportunity that otherwise maybe they wouldn't have, we're hoping will help. Brown University.
I have to say, when I'm hearing all this, I just keep on thinking, I wish I had this when I was.
You'll be fine, Robin.
You've done very well. We are proud of you, I'll show you.
Thank you.
That's great. Let's see, I'm sorry. Okay, so scholarships, okay. I'm sorry, did you have a question on that?
No, we're talking about senior.
Oh, I'm sorry, so, right, so the juniors, that's for the junior class. And a senior class, that's ongoing. And really, the seniors are ongoing all year. We're doing senior interviews. Again, we've gone into classrooms to present to the seniors all their options, opportunities. We give them their homework to do before they come down and meet. We totally navigate the system with them as far as uploading the Common App, Naviance, recommendation letters, and really pushing beyond what they're traditionally thinking. That's a real push this year, I want to tell you. I had a meeting just today with the counselors. We were challenging each other back and forth. It's a difficult discussion, and what I mean by that is I want the philosophy to be, this is the world. You know, letting students look through that lens first and early on. Where students ultimately decide to go and get accepted and do go is a very personal decision. It comes down to a family decision. It comes down to a personal decision for the student. But I don't believe, and I hope our counselors are all in the same philosophy, that we don't limit the students. Our jobs are to provide information, provide the opportunities, show them the possibilities, and support whatever their decisions are. Yeah, we had a good discussion about that today. So I hope that we will get better at what we're doing with our students and giving them every opportunity possible. So in order to fund some of these things, scholarships. The scholarships were traditionally in the guidance office. It was a small box that students could access or not. And I think visuals are important. I think where information is centrally located and making sure that students are aware that it's accessible is important. So I teamed up with our media center coordinator, Ms. Johnson, and I asked if I could put the scholarships in the media center. I don't know if any of you have visited us early morning, but that media center is packed. Before 7 o'clock, when I walk in about 10 of 7, there are students waiting outside already to get in. So that is a central location. Any morning, do you go there in the morning?
Sometimes, not
Okay.
usually, but there's a lot of students there when you do.
Easily, I don't know, any given day, 70, 100 students, first thing in the morning in the media center. They're giving out passes for the day so that they come down during their studies. She is working hard in there with students to get them resources, information, and they're doing homework. They're working together. It's a great place for the students to be. So perfect, here you go, scholarships. So we made a big visual, there's a big poster up, and the scholarships are there. She's actually helping me with that. So as the scholarships come in to me, I make copies, give them to her, and she makes copies for the students. If students then can go over there, they access them, they're dated as to when their timelines are for submitting the scholarships, their applications, and Ms. Johnson also helps them if they need filling out information. To date, we have received 24 outside scholarships since September that students can apply for and have been. And some are pretty big. Like today we have one that came in from the Rotary Club. They're giving out $13,000 scholarships.
Wow.
Yeah, and I believe that that's up from what they were offering last year to our students. So it's, the students need to know this information. So again, on the newsletters, we say, please check the scholarship list. The scholarships are there for you. Please access us to help you fill out these scholarships and letters. The other thing that we haven't done, which is new, again, utilizing the resources we have, Aspen, Naviance, we are going to be uploading all of this to Naviance. So if we put this in Naviance, our students can log in, they see the scholarship, they see the requirements and criteria for the scholarship, and they can submit their applications right online. That hadn't been done before. It's at our fingertips. We're going to start to use this. There's a little bit of work because it's data entry and entering all of this, but I think it's critical to our students, and the sooner we start, the better for them. These scholarships that have come in are nothing to do with our in-house scholarships. That's a whole different situation, I hear. It's going to be new to me. I'm looking forward to being part of the scholarship committee and spearheading that, but these are in addition to what we already do, I guess, internally for our students. I talked about early college opportunities, early exposure, getting them out there, and we're doing that through tours. And last but not least, focusing on professional development, even for the team. I think we need to be lifelong learners. We need to be well-versed in the latest resources and what's out there for opportunities for our students. We can't do this unless we are constantly evolving, learning, bringing back these resources, and they should be relevant and the latest information to give students. Not outdated information, not something that happened because this is the way it was happening or we were doing, but what is current now, what is meaningful to the students. And I believe in supporting our staff in professional development so that they have opportunities to go on college tours, go to see what other schools are doing, what is the criteria for a good letter, for recommendation letters, for students' letters. And all of this takes time and development on their part, on all of our parts, to grow as our students are growing and their needs are growing. So we've started that. We actually had a representative admissions director from Harvard come and speak to the team to talk about what is the difference, you know, what makes the difference for them in an admissions process, how to better support our students with these letters, and how they're looking for the well-rounded student that has multiple experiences. And they want that in these letters that support as evidence that we are preparing our students for the world. So that was a little eye-opening, and we had a great discussion with them back and forth asking questions. And then more locally for our students that decide that Bristol Community College has come on several times. They've made presentations, they do direct admissions for the school. And in addition, we had a wonderful former student that came from UNH, and she presented on transitioning from the student's lens. So she's a sophomore this year, and she came back and made a presentation to the senior class about things to consider, like what happens when you don't like your roommate, you know, and you're miles and miles away, how to get along, how to fend for yourself when the cafeteria is closed and all you've got is the ramen noodles in the dorm room, things like simple things like that that maybe we don't always discuss, but students should be discussing and thinking about. Finances, you know, how am I, if I only have a debit, and how am I going to make this last all month? So she gave some great talking points as far as students being able to go home and talk this out with their parents, also for them to kind of self-reflect and figure out where they're at this time as they transition to making these decisions for school. So I'm sorry if it's a lot right now. I wasn't exactly sure what questions you had for me. If you have other questions that I can address, please. I'm here to answer anything. I just put these together as initial things that we started since September, the direction that the department is going in. And again, for me, it was being visible for all students, making sure that we can contact them as much as possible and build good relationships, and also work as a team as much as possible to support one another in this work.
So I think that was an excellent overview, and I don't know if anyone else has any questions.
Question. I agree, it was excellent. I have a senior, so now I'm feeling bad like Ryan. That this wasn't in place beforehand, but I'm very excited for what you're putting in place at the school. One of the things that you touched on, some great new initiatives. Are you doing any outreach, or do you have any planned continuation of existing outreach to parents? What are you doing with bringing parents in, if that's the case? I know we've had some financial aid night or things like that. Are you going to continue those?
Absolutely. So as much as we can, I think it is important to contact, to connect the parents. And I think it's an area we can certainly improve on, and we should. More probably emails and information coming out directly from the guidance department to the parents, informing them, maybe even in the form of a newsletter, strictly for parents, on topics that pertain directly to them, let's say, depending on grade level, right? I think right now we rely a lot on the newsletters and information that go out from our central office or our administration. But I think clearly as counselors, there are always topics that we could talk about, give information and resources, and then hopefully two-way communication, so parents are asking us questions that they'd like us to, help support or inform. And so I thank you for that, because it's okay. One more thing that we should be looking at and concentrating on. And as you're talking about seniors moving on, what I want to say is we've started a conversation. I don't have a plan yet, but I think it is important to keep track of our students that have graduated, how they're doing, make sure that we can still be a resource to them, support and celebrate their successes as they go on, because I think it's really important. Like I heard students that were making the honor roll at different colleges they're at, we need to share that information and bring it back, because it's motivational for our students that are current with us, right? And then get them to say, oh, I can be part of that, or I can do that. And again, even having them come back and speak. So I know that our counselors are great about keeping in touch with some of their students, but I think we need to do that perhaps on a larger scale and even a little bit more formal, so that, you know, we have correct data and, you know, correct contacts to get them in to speak, because we have very talented students, and they can come back and really share a lot of their experiences with our kids. And if I'm not wrong, students like to hear from students. That's,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, and I think that that's the strongest connection. Like, we can really use them as resources. So that gives us some things to think about and improve on, for sure.
Great.
Thank you.
Somewhat related to that is an issue that has come up at the Chamber of Commerce Education Committee meeting. A college day at the end of the school year to celebrate the seniors who've been accepted at various colleges. It's a separate day set aside to recognize them, and very often they wear their
Correct.
anticipated colleges regalia, or
Yes.
you know. So that's something that I believe some
Our
members
students do
of
that
our
already.
administration visited the college day at Durfee last year. Are
We do
planning
that.
on doing
Our
that?
high school seniors do that already. There's that one day in May 1st, I think, and
Right.
they all come in wearing the t-shirt, sweatshirt, or whatever of the college that they're attending
Is
next year.
is there a formal recognition ceremony where parents are invited?
I don't know.
No.
Not
So
to
that's-
that
Not
level.
yet, but.
No, this program was started, it was an idea of Michelle Obama
Oh.
when she was First Lady, and it's been picked up. So it's a little more formal than just the seniors on a particular day wearing their brown sweatshirts.
Yeah.
So it's just something, we'll pass more information along
Sure, thank
to
you.
you about that. Another thing, I was going to sort of pass this by the superintendent, but since you're here, I'll just mention it. The Providence Journal's been advertising a one-day university program on March 26th at Rhode Island College, at which a professor from Holy Cross is speaking. He's a history professor from Holy Cross. He's received various distinguished teaching awards, and he's also authored a few books. And he's speaking about 5 significant events in American history that shaped our country. I've purchased 6 tickets, one of which I intend to use myself. The other 5 I would be happy to make available to juniors, perhaps coordinated through the AP history teacher who might have some interest in Holy Cross, but not necessarily a requirement that they apply. But I think it would be an interesting experience to see probably an extended college lecture in history if students are interested. So, and then the third thing I wanted to mention, and I'm not looking for a response, but one of the things we've talked about a little in our committee meetings is addressing the needs of our struggling students. And I was wondering if you're familiar with a SMILES mentoring program that exists in Fall River, I believe, with People
Incorporated.
People Incorporated. And I've thought that we might be thinking about a mentoring program for some of our struggling students. I've personally observed some situations where I thought, it just occurred to me that maybe members of the community who might be willing to serve as mentors might be able to help some of our students that really need support. So I just mentioned that as something to think about. I know you're this is your first year, but and I'm sure you have a lot of ideas, and we can't accomplish everything immediately, but it's just something that I've been thinking about for a while. We have some limitations. Our faculty is decidedly white, and I think it's important for our students to be able to relate to faculty members, and if that's not the case, perhaps members of the community that might be able to provide support. So just an idea that I wanted to mention.
Certainly, thank you.
Anyone else?
If I can piggyback on Ms. Gagliardi's comments about the newsletter to the parents, or to your comments, as a parent of a freshman, just understanding the timelines and things that need to be done, from just scheduling to when should we be really sitting down and thinking about college and what our choices are, so we can assist at home as well. So we're not waiting till that junior year, it's done ahead of time. I know that for myself and for other people, it's just knowing what that timeline is, maybe we might miss some milestones that we need to. But I also had a question, wondering if we've had a discussion about maybe some stretch goals or future where we could collaborate with local colleges to offer for maybe our high achieving students additional courses that could be used for college credit down the road, which can assist financially and also for admission as well. Has there been any dialogue on that?
Again, just starting out right now, I haven't looked into that. I know that there has been talk about that in the past. There's been students taking
I believe in
dual
Fall River they
enrollment
do,
and
yeah.
college credit, and so I know with Bristol Community College, UMass, there was just a conversation with UMass Dartmouth regarding that as well, and Bridgewater. Definitely something to explore. We do have students that are high achievers, excellent students that could definitely take something like this on. I think the dialogue would continue, I believe, through the superintendent and different committees, but I'm open and at will to what you'd like us to do, to pursue, and these are great ideas that we should look into and do our best with them.
I think the superintendent is looking at those issues and trying to
Yes.
I just wanted
get
to
more
make sure that
information
that
and
was
look
still-
at, there
Yes.
are a couple of different types of programs and they're being explored.
They are.
Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. I know for the senior classroom meetups, you mentioned going through Common App. And what I would say is that I know me and a lot of people in my grade started doing Common App over the summer, so maybe going over that junior year as well would be helpful. Because there's a lot of people who like to apply early for college. And it's always good to encourage a head start, especially with college stuff.
Excellent point. Well, I'll follow that up.
And to go on Mr. Pierce's College Day idea, I know when I was at Bishop Stang recently, they had this huge poster and it like displayed where everyone in the school like got in and they were going, and I thought that was really cool that they were celebrating their students' achievement like that.
So how would you like to see your face up there? You can be my first.
They're more like names, but
We want to step it up a notch. We like a picture with a name. I like to make those connections.
If we do something like that, though, I'd also like to be mindful of the kids that maybe don't decide to go to college and what their plans are for after school, because one thing that we want to be mindful of is that we are a public school and it's college and career ready.
Thank you.
So by
Thank you.
doing that,
Yes.
how can we celebrate everybody's achievement at graduation and what they're going to be doing next?
Right. So again, we've had these conversations. They are very sensitive conversations, and we have to look at all the situations, right? So we went back and forth with, do we just post the college with numbers of how many students got into Holy Cross and, you know, Yale and Brown and UMass Dartmouth and all of our schools that our students have applied to. You know, put up the pennants and numbers, if you will, and keep it kind of generic without attaching a name and a person. And then to the extreme where some people believe, you know, our students have worked hard for this recognition. They've earned the right to, I don't want to call it bragging, but celebrate the success that they have gotten into the school of their dreams, and their families support and want to see that celebration. So do we, you know, make a big display with the school and the names and really celebrate all these excellent students and you know, we're so hopeful for their futures. So it is something we're toying with a little back and forth on how to be sensitive and mindful to use your term, it's absolutely true, and to celebrate all our students, because yes, even just different career pathways, how can we do that? So we are doing the college sweatshirt day. We're talking about a celebration for them during a lunch with, maybe a special treat with a cake or something with schools on it. And I know we've even talked about staff joining in on that. So the staff would wear their college shirts or graduate, shirts as well to join in that for students. But we have a variety of students, many different needs, and it's getting to all of them so that they all feel welcomed and part of our school. So we are mindful to that. Thank you.
So I just a couple of quick things. First of all, excellent update presentation.
Thank you.
Very, very helpful. And mentoring programs,
Yes.
very much in favor of that. I think the community of Somerset and Berkley has a wealth of talent and experienced individuals that are more than willing to sit with students and share their own experiences. And to Mrs. Field's point, not everybody's college ready, right? At least not the day they graduate. So, and I know BCC is a great, opportunity as opposed to a four-year school, but some people aren't going to college and want to see what's out there. So, anything I think we can do for that
Sure.
would be great, because I had a conversation with my son yesterday. Yeah, I'm not sure about college.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're a sophomore, we've got time, but still, early on, he's seeing all his friends get excited about college.
Sure.
And he's like, yeah, I don't even have, any direction as to what I want ahead or what's out there, so, being mindful of that is, I think, is great.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the interest inventories are important, making our connections early on with students and knowing the true student, what their interests are. I want to let you know that in our college fair, we had trade schools, vocational colleges and technical schools that came as well and represented. We had a hairdressing academy for students that are interested in that field. So we are mindful that students have different career paths and again, exposure early on so that they can make their ultimate choice.
Yeah. They know what's out there.
It's very
But
personal.
they don't understand what's outside the four walls of the school, so
Right.
any exposure is great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We thank you very much, because we really have several other agenda items.
Of course.
We have to move on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next item is our superintendent's update.
Sure. I have a few items, and I guess I can just start. I wasn't planning on saying this, but in terms of mentoring, we do have, as I've said before, we have the capstone project that's happening this year, where we have about 35 or so seniors involved, each of whom has a mentor as part of the research that they're doing in the project. And Ms. Haskell and I just about 2 weeks ago met with a few officials from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed about our Innovation Pathways grant. So we're continuing to work with DESE down that road. So it was clearly the initial application, as just about every initial application is, but as we learned, a not yet, not a no. So we're very confident that with the resubmittal, we will be accepted into the program, which with that also includes a capstone project or internship has some mentoring aspect to it as well. So we value the notion of students working with mentors outside of the building. We know, particularly with the capstone project, as Mr. Patello said, we have a number of residents, community members from Berkley and from Somerset who have volunteered to work with our seniors doing capstone. So we know that next year that program is going to grow. So I think mentoring will become really a critical part of maybe the seniors' experience, but maybe even beyond the senior year. All right, so I wasn't planning on announcing that, but I did want to share that we have 6 students whose artwork is now on exhibit at UMass Dartmouth. It's under the Emerging Young Artist exhibit. It's on display there from, I think it started last week until February 9th. The students are Sarah Fitzgerald, Sarah Hino, Samantha LaFleur, Macy Paquin, Eric Perry, and Elena Vasconcelos. So congratulations to them for having their artwork selected, or photography or painting. I've seen the exhibits that are there. So congratulations to them for that achievement. Another one I wanted to mention tonight, and Mr. Machado will, Somerset will hear this on Monday. Earlier in the year we had an evacuation, just one of our evacuation drills at one of the Somerset public schools. And a path that is typically used, a paved path, was completely flooded. It was 6 inches of water, 40 feet long, unpassable. And it's a safety concern when we're trying to do, have a fire drill or something, and we're evacuating students from a building. So I took pictures of it, went to Mr. Ramos, our engineering design teacher, and I said, I have a problem, and I would love for your students to solve it. He was intrigued right from the get-go. I said, I don't care if it's a bridge, if it's a elevated pathway, whatever it is, you think about it. So he emailed me earlier today indicating that he has formed his engineering design class, teams of 3. They're going to design some prototypes for this. They're going to have they're going to be judged at the end of the year. And then the winning design, I told him that Somerset Public Schools will purchase the materials to make sure that they can construct it, and we'll have a safe path for our students during these emergency evacuations. He went yesterday, and obviously when I took it in the fall, it was nothing but water. Yesterday it was nothing but ice. So it's really an unsafe situation, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that progresses during the spring months, and that'll be something that our students, our high school students, will be engaged in solving a real world problem and helping alleviate a problem at the Somerset Public Schools. So with that, I just wanted Mrs. Martesian to talk about the inclusive concurrent enrollment program that BCC is now starting. As you know, we've been involved with Bridgewater's ICE program for the past several years. BCC reached out to us to see if we would be part of their planning grant, including us, Fall River, and Dartmouth, to see if we wanted to be part of this. Mrs. Martesian represented the district last week at a meeting and can share a little bit more about that.
So, yes, so it would be Somerset, Berkley, Fall River, and Dartmouth, and we're on the planning committee. And from now until August, we are planning, and this program, for people who do not know, is for students with intellectual disabilities who wouldn't necessarily get the opportunity to go to college or be offered to go to college. So it is students with intellectual disabilities between the ages of 18 and 22 who, as Mr. Schoonover said, we do have a couple of students at Bridgewater State that they've been there for 2 years and they've been very successful. And now BCC is starting one. And we're lucky that we were invited to do this in the opening, from the ground going up, and we're part of the planning process. So hopefully over the next 2 years, we would have additional kids going to BCC. So, and it allows these students to take regular college courses like everybody else. They do get support in the classroom, an education coach, but they participate in any extracurricular activities. They're part of, the education coach doesn't go and sit with them or anything at lunch. It's, they get to go and enjoy what everybody else does at college. And it's really it's a great program, and it's really growing across the country. It's not just in Massachusetts, but so it's great, and we're lucky that we have 2 opportunities now for our students. So it is for all students. Everyone has the same opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, and one more item: the high school, well, I should say the state, MSAA, the Mass Schools Administrators Association, recently approved an esports program in the state. In fact, I think this week is the first championship round. I received something early today between Newton South and I forget what the other school was. Esports is competitive gaming. It is actually on, in terms of the MSAA, on a level playing field with cheerleading. It's not an MIAA endorsed sport, but it is a program equivalent to something like cheerleading. Mr. Lanziski was interested. He asked me about it. I said, well, let's just find out what our student interest is. He did send out a survey to kids last week, and he was surprised to see the very high interest of students who wanted to participate in an esports club, after-school club. So we don't know where this is going just yet, but I wanted to make sure the committee was aware. There is a fee associated with it if we wanted to participate. I think it's $70 per student. So Mr. Lanziski and I were, the question was, is this a is this a sport with a fee, you know, to help to alleviate those costs? But we don't know. We don't have all the answers right now. But I did want to just share that with you, and that our students really expressed a high interest in this. We'll see where it goes, but we do need to make a decision, and he and I will work and decide what to do over the next several weeks in order to make this spring season.
I have seen it actually at colleges as well.
I think Becker College is the first that actually, they're granting scholarships for an esports club.
Could we know about any potential costs?
Yes.
It might be something that is a connecting point for some students that don't connect to music.
That's exactly the reason why we're exploring this, because not every student is a competitive athlete on a playing field or court. Not everyone is a musician, so it's just another way to attract other students who, you know, we can keep them connected to the school after school.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, thank you for getting here, and do you have a report?
Yes, I have a report. Sorry I'm late. Again, I'm sorry I'm late, but
Oh,
so
that's fine.
the ski team is off on their trip tomorrow, and I'm not a skier, but they seem very excited about that. Tom Thelen recently stopped by our school to talk about his experience with bullying, what bullying is, and how you can stand up to bullying. So there's a lot of, he reported that from a survey the school conducted that there's a lot of friend group bullying, so I think this presentation was very good to try to solve that problem. And today we had a student council meeting, and we decided on our topics for the Raiders' response. That's what we called the town hall meeting previously. We changed the name because it was a little confusing, but our topics are the parking passes, mid-years, and just general communication between students and the administration. And also, our mid-year survey was sent out today, and last time I checked, we already had 122 responses. And just one of the more impressive figures I saw was that 75% of students want a specific mid-year week, sort of like students have finals week. So that might be something to consider, but we should wait until all of the data is in to determine if it's something the student body wants or not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item is a report on the faculty and student presentations on bullying. And we have a lot of items on the agenda that we have to get through. I attended both of those programs. I attended the presentation to the faculty on Monday morning. This was the first full week of January, done by the Mark Center at Bridgewater State University. And the second that Ryan has alluded to, presented by Tom Thelen. He's the author of a student guide to end bullying, victim-proof, and he's written other books. As part of his presentation or his engagement, he provided a copy of his book, his video, and a teacher's guide, which I just asked it's the only one that we have in the district, so I just asked that we have it here at the meeting tonight so committee members could look at it. I'd like to have a more thorough discussion of this issue at perhaps our next meeting, because I don't think we have the time this evening to fully explore it, but it's an issue that I'm very concerned about. And while I thought both presentations were excellent, I don't think they're adequate. A one-time presentation to students and a one-time presentation to faculty is adequate to really comes to grips with this issue. I'm hoping that we can have a more comprehensive discussion about the topic at a future meeting relatively soon. And Ryan, just to give you a heads up, I'd be very interested in hearing more comprehensively your impression of the presentation by Tom Thalen. I attended, there were two separate presentations, one to sophomores and seniors, which I assume you were at, and one to freshmen and juniors. I was at the freshman and junior program, so I'm sure they were pretty much the same presentation, but I'd like to hear a student's perspective on a little broader scale as to what you thought of that program. So, unless Mr. Schoonover, you have anything to add to that?
I was unavailable for, well, first on Monday, the Mark Center presentation. You're right, it was a good first step in addressing school culture and bullying. It can't be the only step. I was not able to attend the student presentations on Tuesday. We had a leadership meeting for the Somerset Public School side at the same time. So I've talked to several students about it. I've had different perspectives from a freshman and a senior. So it'll be interesting to see what some other students have to say.
One of the issues that I'd like to explore, I saw something of a contradiction in the two presentations. Tom Thalen's presentation is focused completely on how his relationship with a particular teacher helped him to deal with the bullying that he was experiencing in high school. And I may have not, maybe overstating this, but my impression on the presentation from the mock center was this business of finding an adult to talk to a teacher is not the solution. It's it needs to be addressed among students, and students to address this among themselves and to support other students in order to resolve these kinds of issues. So I'd just like to see if I understood that correctly, and whether there is a contradiction there, or whether I just didn't fully understand the presentation.
I don't think it was saying that the adults, not to have the adults address it. The research shows, and the Mark Center is, everything they do is research driven. It's more effective when students are addressing students rather than when the adult is addressing the student. So it's not that one is ineffective and one is effective. Students dealing with this, the peer-to-peer model is far more effective than the adult to the peer model. Mm-hmm. So I think that was really the point. I don't think it was that one was, the adults are ineffective.
I don't think that came through in Tom Thalen's presentation, but I may be wrong. His presentation was largely focused on the significance of one particular teacher who helped him through this situation. And so I just raised that as something that might be considered and talked about.
I think if I'm not mistaken, Tom Thelen did touch on the fact that students shouldn't be bystanders and that they should stand up for other students. So I think that sort of goes along with that.
Okay. All right. So we have two citations this evening for one teacher who is retiring. So I will read the citation. At a meeting of the Somerset Berkley Regional School Committee on January 24, 2019, a citation was prepared, signed by members of the committee, and voted inscribed in the permanent records Citation, whereas Raymond F. Croak served as a technology teacher for the Somerset Public Schools and the Somerset Berkley Regional School District for the past 21 years, and whereas he faithfully and conscientiously performed his duties on behalf of the students at Somerset High School and Somerset Berkley Regional High School, an individual with integrity and high standards who always puts the needs of his students first, whereas he fulfilled his duties with the utmost attention to detail and a steadfast commitment to excellence, earning the respect of colleagues, parents, and students while always maintaining the highest standards of education, it is hereby resolved that the members of the Somerset Berkley Regional School Committee commend Raymond F. Croak in the official minutes, recording this expression of appreciation and gratitude to an honored professional of the Somerset Berkley Regional School District, and extend best wishes for good health and happiness in his retirement. I will entertain a motion to adopt the citation.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Mrs. Gagliardi and seconded by Mr. Larrabee. Is there any discussion? In the absence of discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We wish Mr. Croak the best. Next, at a meeting of the Somerset Berkley Regional School Committee on January 24, 2019, a citation was prepared, signed by members of the committee, and voted inscribed in the permanent records. Citation, whereas Patricia M. Fortuna served as a paraprofessional for the Somerset Public Schools and the Somerset Berkley Regional School District for the past 16 years, and whereas she faithfully and conscientiously performed her duties on behalf of the students at Somerset High School and Somerset Berkley Regional High School, an individual with integrity and high standards who always put the needs of her students first, whereas she fulfilled her duties with the utmost attention to detail and a steadfast commitment to excellence, earning the respect of colleagues, parents, and students, and always maintaining the highest standards of education, it is hereby resolved that the members of the Somerset Berkley Regional School Committee commend Patricia M. Fortuna in the official minutes, recording this expression of appreciation and gratitude to an honored professional of the Somerset Berkley Regional School District and extending best wishes for happiness in her retirement years. I'll entertain a motion to adopt that citation.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Mrs. Gagliardi, seconded by Mr. Larrabee. Any discussion? In the absence of discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, the next item we have is approval of monthly invoices. Are there any questions on the invoices? If there are not, I would ask everyone to sign the warrants before leaving this evening. Next item is a budget subcommittee update. Mrs. Gagliardi?
The budget subcommittee met once more just prior to this meeting. We have been meeting with not content authorities, but department heads, so that we can get a little bit of the understanding behind what has been put into this year's budget. So far, we've met with Mrs. Haskell, Mr. Levesque, Ms. Martesian, and Carlos Campos. So I think what our next steps are to map out the rest of the budget process. We do plan on having a budget workshop for the entire committee to look at it. There are still some pieces that are being put together, so that's why we haven't brought anything to you yet, but that's what we're in the process of doing.
What's the date that budgets are due to the towns?
So
45 days before town meetings.
say that again? The end of March?
It's gonna be 45 days before the May town meeting for our regional school districts.
Okay.
So the end, usually, the end of March.
We have to have a public hearing then.
And we'll be
Yeah.
scheduling.
Yeah, we'll schedule a public
Part of the scheduling process is to schedule, establish a date for the public hearing, which will be maybe the third week of March. We'll have to look at that.
So according to our agreement, we need to come up with what is called a preliminary or tentative budget number. That then is presented at the public hearing, and then after that feedback, we meet again and finalize or adjust that number, so. We're very sensitive, we wanna make sure that everybody gets all the information they can, so we can look at that at the budget workshop and have some real dialogue there, so that shortly thereafter, if not at that meeting, we come up with what our tentative or preliminary number will be. Okay.
Okay.
Next item is transportation invitation for bid results. Mrs. Albanaz?
Thank you. So in front of you, you have the bid response received by our only response that we received for our transportation invitation for bid. We did have a due date of January 11th for this bid. We did have a pre-site or pre-bid meeting scheduled on January 4th, which we had 2 vendors attend. But ultimately, on the due date of January 11th, only one bidder actually bid, which is Fisher Bus, our existing contracted vendor. So I just want to go through some of the highlights with you, and then just some talking points. We can talk about that. So I'm just going to go through just the fiscal part right now, which you can go through these on your will. Page 4 to page 5, kind of midway through your packet. So we put 2 proposals in for price of the bus per day. One is without the required security cameras that we laid out in the IFB, and one without them. So the bid response came in at $341 per day without the cameras. With the cameras and maintenance of them and purchase of them, you'll see on page 5, year 1, $345.50 per bus per day. Swing of $4.50. I will note our existing daily bus rates for FY18 as well as FY19. They did not change for this current school year. Being the 5th year of our contract, was $298 a day. So it's a swing of about 14 to 15%, depending on if you're looking at cameras or not. And then you can see the subsequent years go up about $10 a day. Without the cameras, a little bit less for year 4 and 5 with the cameras. So that's the heavy hitter number of this contract. I'm going to skip over special ed vans on page 2 of the addendum, only because we don't have any special ed vans for the high school. We transport all of our students utilizing our own fleet for the high school, so I didn't think it was kind of prudent to talk about that right now, but we are able to manage those transportation routes. So page 40 of the actual contract here, I know it's not really in page order, but I just wanted to give you what was given to us. This is the athletic transportation. So year 1, typically it's, so what they do is they'll do it by mileage, so wherever they're going is by mile, and then if a driver has to wait at a location, let's say it's far away, you have to pay that driver to wait. It's not worth it for them to drive back and to just drive back and pick up the students after the event. So year 1, which would be next year, $4.25 for 5,000 miles. Waiting time $60 per hour. I will note in FY19, the price per mile per bus is $3.95. That's about a $1,500 swing, but it is split with the middle school too. We do have some athletic transportation at the middle school, so it's a portion of that is the high schools. The waiting time, which is $60 for next year, or proposed to be $60, was $42 this year for the hourly wait time. Increase of about $5,400. Again, that's split with the middle school athletics as well. Page 7, which is...
Before you move on from that,
Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt. When you say out-of-town athletic activities, does that also include, is that all extracurricular, like for music as well?
So we decided to pull out extracurricular from this contract. We decided to allow schools to go get quotes from multiple vendors if they chose to. And it's based on the trip, wherever they're going. And there's not a lot of them, but we felt it would be, and it was based on feedback from a lot of these people or coordinators that were scheduling these trips. They wanted to shop around, so they're the ones scheduling it. I'm going to allow it. I think it's important to get comparable prices for these types of trips. So we took them out of this contract.
I do recall last year there was the DECA actually did go out the bid for transportation to the airport for one of their I think it was the national or international coverage, and they found something that was substantially lower cost.
Right, but
It was
with,
a one-time.
right, but with that old contract, we had to use Fisher
Yeah.
Bus, so, that's that, that's
Yeah.
the reason why. Does
So-
that answer your question?
Yep.
For clarification, so you're saying with this new proposal, even though we have athletics on here, we do not have to use Fisher Bus for athletics, am I
We
correct?
do have to use them for athletics,
But not for extracurricular.
correct.
Okay, so I guess begs the question, why wouldn't we open it up for all to be able to bid then?
For athletics,
Yeah, because that's more on us.
the frequency of it, we just have a lot more athletic events. I mean, every single team is going somewhere Monday through Saturday, sometimes Sunday. It's just not, it doesn't make sense to have the athletic director calling multiple vendors to see how much the basketball trip to,
Dartmouth would be.
Dartmouth would be. I just don't, it's
Okay.
kind of, you need that, because of the frequency of the trips that are happening during the school year, I think it's important to have a locked-in rate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so last page, page 7 of this, which is behind the athletics, is the late buses. This was a last minute tweak to our IFB that I went forward to both committees and asked for this to be broken out separately. High school late buses came in at $90 per day. Currently, they're $78 per day per bus, so that's a swing of $1,500 per bus per day for 4 days a week at the high school. Times 2 is about 3,100. So looking at those 4 categories, we're looking at about a $70,000 increase in our busing for next year, just for the high school. It's about 15%, a little bit more actually. So because we had feedback at the K-8 meeting last Monday on this, which is reasonable, because Fisher Bus was the only bidder, I legally have the authority to negotiate with them on this bid. I do not think we legally can go back out to bid again, nor do I recommend that, because ultimately they could come in at a higher number if they're the only bidders. So, and this is common. It is very common for school districts to only have one bid response, and it's the bane of business managers' existence. It's the one thing that we have no control over, because you have to go with the prices. If an IFB, and because it's an invitation for bid, you're asking for one service per day, what does it cost? There's really very limited wiggle room with what you're asking for. So because it's an IFB, what they put is what you're locked into. If it was a request for proposals or qualifications, you have a little bit more wiggle room to push back on a bidder. But because it's like, it's the same thing as, what does a new oven cost? And you go out to bid for that. You have to go with the lowest bidder if they met your bid specs. So this is what Fisher Bus, they did. They came back with, bid figures, and although a 15% increase is considered unreasonable, we do have a lot of additions to this contract that we did not have in the old contract. And some of those are the security cameras, the physical crossing arms for the buses. We're requiring them now when a bus stops for it to swing. There's a little, probably 1-inch wide bar that comes out. Those buses do not have those at this moment. We're requiring them to be trained in utilizing our routing software, which requires additional labor on their part. We have the issue of their increasing costs with minimum wage. When we started this contract, minimum wage was $9 an hour. It's 12 now. It's going to be creeping up over the next 5 years. As well as, and the region recognizes this, as well as the town of Somerset and Berkley, just insurance rates for employees, workers' comp rates, unemployment rates, all of those things, specifically health insurance for employees is big, and we recognize that in our own budget. So what I would like to do is allow the committee to go back to Fisher Bus, kind of take out these a la carte things that we added in and price those out and see what we are and are not willing to move forward with, and see if we can bring the daily bus count or bus rate down a little bit. We can try, but ultimately they did not violate the bid specs. They came in with what their price is, and this is what it's going to cost unless we can negotiate something lower.
Would you be looking at, when you sit down with them to you can renegotiate with them, right? So could we
Because they're
provide
the
you,
only bidder.
because we could provide you with some questions and things like that could be looked at in that negotiation.
Sure. I would welcome them if you want to email them to me. That would be great.
Well, it may require a further meeting. And perhaps even a joint meeting with the Somerset K School Committee.
Sure.
Since it's a joint contract. There are some, first of all, would you mind sending out a copy of the comparable pages from the existing contract?
Sure. Yeah, I'm
Because I'd
sorry,
like to
I
be able to
should've-
sit down and compare some of the numbers. For example, I'm really troubled by the wait time increase from $42 an hour to $60 an hour, because I don't understand what factor there is in that number, and maybe the contractor can explain, other than an employee sitting on his or her derriere for 3 or 4 hours, and what additional costs would be involved. And I think I can pretty safely say that Fisher is not paying their drivers $60 an hour, including what fringe benefits they might receive, which I think are probably not very generous, just because of the nature of the job. So, so I think we do have some talking to do, and I want to make sure, you know, this is between both school districts, like $1.5 million a year contract, and I think we need to look at this pretty carefully before we give it our imprimatur.
Sure.
So,
I-
any information you can share with us, and we can't really, because of the open meeting law, we can't really dialogue outside of an open meeting about this contract. So it may be necessary, even if we had to have, I think, even if we were going to schedule a joint meeting, we've had difficulty in the past scheduling joint meetings, but this is a matter that needs to be resolved as promptly as possible. I understand that because it plays a role in the budgets of both districts. So we do want to get it resolved promptly. But that would be, that's just my personal view. So I don't know what other comments there are from the committee.
So just for clarification, if there's any specific questions that we'd like to put forth, I guess the best process would just be to share those with Lindsay, and then you could just create a master list of questions to take back.
Yes,
Okay.
when we deal with the negotiations. What I'll send you is in an Excel sheet, the old rates for the last 5 years, and the new rates, and cross those out as well. And I will email that to both committees, Somerset Public and the high school.
It's possible for you, through your Association of Business Managers, to obtain bus contracts from surrounding districts, the ones that would be comparable, like perhaps Dartmouth and Dighton, Rehoboth, Ponequid.
I can do that.
Just so we could,
from our
just so we
price
can
per day.
compare our costs versus theirs.
I started to do that, but I think it'd be a lot easier for me to try to do that.
And, I mean, you can look at those, but we have specific things in this contract that are unique to us. And there were.
Well, we understand, but they've
Yeah.
sort of priced out the difference in cameras, so we know what that number is.
So the gasoline price that they have listed is $3.36 a gallon. I don't know what the average cost is right now, but I'm assuming it's well below $3.36 a gallon.
For diesel?
I don't think so.
It says gasoline and diesel.
I think at the gas stations where I buy gas, and I look for the ones that are reasonably priced, it's about $3.29 a gallon for regular gas.
That is diesel. The gas one, it doesn't look like the dollar amount made it in here, but there there is a link that would show, as of that date, this is what gasoline is, even though it's not in here, there's a way that you have to prove that they have to stick to it, even though the dollar per
It's
gallon
based
isn't
on
in
some
here.
federal survey here.
And so what the fuel adjustment clause is if during the duration of this contract, if gas prices increase significantly, we have to pay a premium. If they decrease, we can go back to the contracted vendor with the difference for the year.
Oh, I thought it said if it varies more than 20 cents, that we pay the actual cost.
We,
Isn't that?
we have to pay if it goes up.
We'll be
If it goes
adjusted.
up, but if it goes down, don't we pay the reduced amount? If it goes down more than 20 cents, we pay the reduced amount, don't we?
If
There
it
are-
goes down less than, if the price of gas goes down, the charge to the contracted vendor is less, we can get that refunded to us.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we're saying the same thing.
There are 15 gas stations in 10 miles that are less than $2.50 a gallon, so,
Really?
yeah, you're gonna wanna,
Well, maybe I'm thinking $2 rather than $3.
Well,
but
that $3 is diesel, which is, just to clarify.
Okay.
even so.
I never
but-
can understand why they charge more for diesel than highly refined gasoline. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Diesel is, far less refined than gasoline, so why it costs more, it just
The
doesn't make
demand,
any
maybe?
sense.
Supply and demand.
I suppose.
But if you extrapolate, even a penny over the life of the contract, based on the number of miles they anticipate driving, that's gonna have a significant impact on the overall cost, yes?
Good.
Yes. But doesn't the contract, thought that the price was determined by some federal,
It is, there's that link, that underlined section is the link to
That's 30 cents.
the federal rate.
30 cents times,
So-
gasoline.
is that because, I mean, I would think that prices of gas in the Northeast are not, well, all right, that's something we'll look at.
Dean, just to clarify, I did fix that in one of the addendums, I did add gasoline as, it's just not on this one.
Okay, are there any other thoughts or comments? Because
No, I just look
believe-
forward to the comparison.
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
When do you think you would meet with them for our questions? How soon do you need those, like ASAP? I would assume.
I would say by Tuesday would be great, if possible.
So if we can get those other comparable contract pages from the last contract, that would be very helpful for us to
Yeah,
craft.
so I'll send you the existing contract numbers and the future ones and the comparable daily rates for our surrounding communities.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've concluded our discussion on this topic. I think we have public input, but I want to be sure that we've concluded our discussion because typically public input is not something that we discuss at a meeting, the current meeting. So Mr. Machado has indicated that he had some thoughts that he wanted to share with us. I say what I said because I've expressed some concerns that we have two members of the Cade School Committee here, and Mr. Machado was a third, and I'm concerned about the open meeting law, but and that's why I'm suggesting that we'll take under advisement any comments he has, but we will not discuss them.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Thank you, school committee. Today I'm actually here as a parent of a child who's entering the high school in the fall of 2020. And I'm also a taxpayer, obviously for Somerset, who is very concerned about the taxes that lately I've been paying. Although I am an elected member of the Somerset School Committee, I am not here representing them. That's what I will be doing on Monday night. But I feel it's very important for me to share this information with you. Obviously, the topic, as Mr. Pierce said, is about the transportation contract. This is obviously a statewide problem, and it needs to be quick. But I feel that it's a can that people continues to kick down the road. And for the last 15 years, I've been hearing transportation, 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 and no committees around the country, or even, well, let's just say state or in this local area, has done anything, including myself. 15 years, and the only bidder that's bid on contracts has been Fisher Bus. I want public to say that I have nothing but praise for the company. They've done great work for our district. But this year, as Mrs. Alvin has mentioned, we had another person attending the IFP meeting, but yet they didn't bid. I don't know why we don't reach out to ask people why they don't bid on our contracts, or why we just accept what we give, what we're being given. Our increase has gone up 15%. Granted, we have things there that we may have to remove, but when a teacher's or any bargaining unit comes to us and asks for a 555, we all chuckle. And these are people that also are providing a great service for our kids. I'm asking both committees publicly right now to vote no on this and really go out to bid. I don't believe that we cannot go back to bid. But this time I think we should do something a little different. Instead of bidding out all our routes, all of our vans in one contract, I think we need to separate it. We've done it in the past, we had it in the past. Why don't we separate our vans, maybe like half of our vans on one, another half on another, 3 bus routes instead of 18 routes total. This will give us competitive bidding, I believe, because I don't think there's any company at this moment that has 20 empty buses and 15 vans plus that is, or willing to make that investment for a 3-year contract. This is a large investment, and that will prohibit companies to doing so. But yet we have companies around here like Daco, Amaral, Tremblay, Fishers, and I don't know which bus company Berkley uses, but I believe these companies may have some buses or vans that are idle in their parking lot that could bid on some of our items. Again, I'm here as a parent of a student who lives less than 1 mile from the high school. I don't want to hear topics being discussed by boards like this one regarding students that live within a certain radius don't get transportation, or worse, needs to pay to ride the bus. As I mentioned before, as a taxpayer, I think I pay enough, and so do all of us. Placing this out to bid is, we have nothing to lose. Do I think they'll come back higher? If they do, that would be very horrible and it wouldn't look good for that company. But I think we have a lot to gain, because if we do have other bidders, we may be saving money. Worst thing, we don't save anything, but at least it shows the taxpayers that we're trying to do something. Lastly, we're all intelligent people, and we've been elected to fight for our students, parents, and taxpayers. All I'm asking us to do, in this case you, is to act like if it was your own house. If you were to have work done at your house, you would want multiple bids. And if you didn't get multiple bids, you would want to figure out why you're not getting multiple bids. Think about buying a car. You check multiple car lots. Or worse yet, something that I do quite often, I always check every airline to find the cheapest price for my travel needs. Treat this as it's your own money, because it is. It's all of ours. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I look forward to that joint meeting. And I also look forward to any discussions that we have in this matter. And I look forward to talk to my committee tomorrow, Monday night too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I'm having heard that public input. I'm going to ask if there's any other public input this time.
I think I just echo what Victor just mentioned. There's a lot of discussion on social media, and I don't have children. I have children who have already been through the school system. They've, you know, we lived in a different time. Somerset was a different time than 20 years ago. And as a taxpayer, I'm at the point where the for sale sign is ready to go up on the lawn because I don't have the confidence that we're doing everything possible to make sure we're getting the biggest bang for our buck. And there's just a lot of concern out there. I know you all see it, so I guess I stand with Victor and say, let's do our due diligence and make sure that we are exhausting every possibility in getting the best value that we can. For the safety of the students, we want to make sure that that's first and foremost, and making sure that we're not being taken to the cleaners. When I heard a $60 increase for someone to sit on their butt, waiting for an event to be done, I signed me up, because I'll do that all day long. It's just unbelievable that they would turn that type of a rate over to us and we're supposed to just swallow it. I just can't imagine what else went into that decision to raise it to that price. So that's all I have to say. I think we just need to sharpen the pencil again and go back and look at this one more time before we sign $1 million contract.
Well, thank you. I think you heard we share your concerns. Now, we have two other significant items on the agenda, and we only have a half hour left for our meeting because of the time constraints that we have when we meet in Berkeley. So if the committee thinks they could expeditiously deal with the executive session, we could do the executive session now and then consider the memorandum of agreement, or if the committee would prefer to hear the superintendent's presentation. I don't know how quickly do we need to approve that memorandum of agreement?
Since the Somerset School Committee meeting meets on Monday night, and they'll be going into executive session then, I think the timing of these two meetings this close together is actually is good. I would prefer that the committee go into an executive session now to hear that.
Mr. Larrabee? I take that.
For Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, I'd like to propose we go into an executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. It's to discuss an American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees Paraprofessional Memorandum of Agreement.
So moved. Second.
Want to do roll call? By roll call, Mrs. Gagliardi?
Here. Aye.
Mrs. Field?
Aye.
Mrs. Rothwell?
Aye.
Mr. Vitello?
Aye. And I will not be participating in the executive session.
And the vice chair votes aye. We will be returning to open session to conclude our meeting.
So we can
We can go down the hall. It's 8:41 p.m. and we're returning to open session. I will consider a motion to approve the paraprofessional memorandum of agreement.
So moved. Second.
By roll call vote, Mrs. Gagliardi,
Aye.
Mrs. Field,
Aye.
Mrs. Rothwell,
Aye.
Mr. Vitello,
Aye.
and the vice chair votes aye.
And I abstain.
All right, so, Mr. Schoonover, do you want to, do we have enough time for you to do your presentation?
No.
No.
I don't know, I can, it's the committee's will, I mean, whatever you
That's
want.
15
I'd
minutes
like
though,
to
that's
give
not
the superintendent enough time to be able to
Yeah.
present it to the public, given all the work that was put into the binder that we had. So I would recommend pushing it to another meeting.
I agree.
All right, so
To be fair.
we'll have to make that a priority at our next meeting, because I
Yes.
am a little concerned. We had a goal of trying to get this done by early January, and for various reasons beyond everybody's control, it's kind of been deferred, so we'll try to make sure it's on the top of our next agenda. So that actually means that I can talk a little bit about
Yay!
the Bristol County Chamber of Commerce Education Committee update.
What, you want to do the Somerset County since we already went?
Oh, yes, well, I was assuming we'd already had Berkley's,
Yes.
Berkley's update. Is there a Somerset,
We'll
K
make it,
update?
we'll make it quick.
Really quick.
Obviously, we're doing the same thing, going through our budgeting, planning as well. Transportation also came up, at the last meeting. Mr. Schoonover went over the strategic plan and everything that's been accomplished in the last 5 years. And that was, interesting and rewarding to see all the progress that's been made in that time. On another note, we had a MSBA or middle school building committee meeting yesterday where we did the interviews for the OPMs. And Lindsay, it's okay for me to announce who won the bid?
Sure.
So the CGA, so CGA essentially is who we chose unanimously,
Great.
which is the same group that did the high school.
Well,
Dan Tavares.
Dan Tavares, sorry.
Is the,
project manager.
Project
I think it's his, I think he founded the company or
Right.
is directing. Yes, so he was the OPM, he was the project manager, working for a different firm at the time.
Okay, so it's his firm now though, right?
Yep.
Okay, and some of the same players are involved?
Yes.
Okay.
Bill Pryor as
Great.
well.
So I think that was the big news, I'm not sure if there's anything else.
I think you covered it.
That's awesome.
What's up?
is that it? Mrs. Albanese, before you duck out, this was on the agenda, but, so, I received an email from the Association of Regional School Committees with our Chapter 70 money on it, and while it says that we're going to get a substantial increase in Chapter 70, it says we're going to get a substantial decrease in school transportation aid. Is that correct? Is that what you're understanding? It's dropping by, I think, almost $100,000, your number I saw.
It's conflicting, that we did get one, and I think it was Mass, the Superintendent's Association, that said it was, maybe it was the state.
It was Mars, the one I sent you yesterday?
But that one said it was level funded.
Well, it was a description saying
Okay.
it was.
Yes, exactly. The description said that the regional transportation aid was level funded in the governor's budget, but then the actual description of the transportation, as a matter of fact, I have it here. It says the 2019 was $233,198, and the FY 2020 is $131,339.
That's
Now,
correct.
very often, that number is increased. This is the governor's proposal, and so the number could very well increase, but I was just wondering why. Was there any, you don't have any indication on any of the groups that you're in? Okay.
I haven't done
Well,
the,
we'll just
honestly, I
follow,
haven't done anything
we'll
yet.
just follow up on that. I mean, there may be other factors, and it could be that by the time it gets through the House and the Senate, these numbers change, and maybe, there's a group that lobbies hard for regional transportation aid, so we'll see what happens. Okay, thanks. I just wanted to report, I attend the Bristol County Chamber of Commerce Education Committee meetings, and as does Mrs. Gagliardi in her role as a representative of Bay Coast Bank, which is very involved in that subcommittee, or that chamber committee, and I commend her for her work, and Nick Christ, who's the CEO of Bay Coast Bank, who are incredibly supportive of education in the area. But there are just two things I wanted our committee to be aware of, and one was the 8th grade youth summit. While it doesn't directly impact our students, it is something that has been the focus of the committee, and I wanted everyone to receive a copy of this report, and I believe it was circulated to everyone. As I mentioned at a previous meeting, I commend the superintendent because at one of the education subcommittee meetings, I noticed that it was focused primarily on Fall River and New Bedford, and asked why it couldn't be expanded to some of the suburban communities, and the superintendent jumped on that and was able to include our middle schoolers this year, and I think it was a very worthwhile program. If you look at the report, you'll see it was very positively received. One of the questions I did have, though, in looking at this report, which I'm not sure we focused on that much at the education committee meeting, is on page 5, which says there are actually a couple of programs for high school students.
And just a quick question, you say our 8th grade students, you mean Somerset's, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Berkley, okay.
I'm sorry, I apologize for that, but I would like to see Berkley included, but I'm not sure if they fall, if Berkley falls under the fall, it's not called the Fall River Chamber of Commerce anymore, it's called the South Bristol County. But I wonder if Berkley's part of, is there a separate Taunton Chamber of Commerce?
There is.
There is.
But I think that we can look at that. I mean, we're really looking to collaborate actually with other chambers anyway, and include as many school districts as possible in the region. So I think in the future we definitely should, especially given that those students end up going to the regional high school. I think it's something we should offer.
But I just noticed these 2 high school programs, a Youth Civic Engagement Summit and a Youth Civic Leadership Institute. And so it's something I'd like to find out a little bit more about, just to see if our students might want to participate in either one of those programs.
Yeah, I think those are offered by the Ladue Center for Civic Engagement. So not something necessarily that's come out of that committee, but it's something that they've been
Or
working
maybe
on.
there's a representative from the Ladue Center at every one of our meetings, so we can perhaps get a little more information from him about that. And then I think we've mentioned it in the past, and maybe Mrs. Gagliardi can expand on this, and this is also more for the information of the K-8 committee. I think it's something you should be aware of. One of the things that the Chamber Education Committee is supporting is a symposium on the importance of early childhood education, and it's modeled after a program that was presented by the Children's Museum in Boston, and it's being organized by Mrs. Sabriga, who has tremendous experience in early childhood education and a strong advocate for it, and they're looking to bring in national speakers. The program is scheduled for March 15th at the Bristol Community College campus. The actual flyer and program hasn't been prepared yet, but once it is, I think we should circulate it to our committee and make it available to the K-8 committee, because while it's sort of directed at the community to increase awareness of the importance of early childhood education and gain support from corporate citizens, I think it's something that would be very informative for all of us in terms of knowing more about the importance of early childhood education. We're seeing, it's often focused in the so-called gateway cities, but I think our superintendent is pointed out situations to us where it's becoming more and more concerned. There's more diversity in our community and more of the kinds of issues that you would associate with maybe larger school districts that are occurring in our school district as well. So, do you have anything else to add?
I think it's really geared towards, the title of the summit is Early Childhood Summit, Investing in Our Future Workforce. So it's really geared towards businesses and getting them to partner with local organizations to do something about it. We don't know what the answer is, but we'll be looking at there are some people who are on the panel that have looked at it from a national perspective, people from Harvard who are coming down to speak. Jerry Robinson, who is the vice president of the Boston Children's Museum, is also going to be one of our panelists. And she did a similar program in Boston that ended up having National Grid donate significant money in doing some pilot early ed programs that benefited the region. So I'm trying to do that here.
Very good.
May I just add something about the Bristol County Chamber of Commerce? And I know that this is really a Somerset Public Schools comment, not necessarily Somerset Berkley, but we've talked about, and this is something I've reported to the Somerset Committee a few months ago, the Chamber of Commerce and Bay Coast Bank have been so generous in supporting teachers each of the past 2 summers with responsive classroom training. We focused 2 years ago at the middle school level, this past year at the elementary school. I shared with the Somerset Committee the impact that it's had in the first year. We've seen at the Somerset Middle School from last November through this past November about a 50% decrease. And this is, some will be a little bit higher, some slightly less, but on average about a 50% decrease in conduct referrals, out-of-school suspensions, in-school suspensions, and detentions. And I mean, in orders of total conduct referrals from about 1,000 to about 600. In-school suspensions, out-of-school suspensions from 42 to 15. So the numbers are just so drastic. The impact that, and this is really the only change. So it has had a massive impact. So just to jump in on Mr. Pearson, your comments about the Bristol County Chamber of Commerce and the way that they've been working with local districts in a number of different areas, but that is one that's had such an impact on our middle school.
That's great to know.
So I'll put that together and share that with
The
maybe
committee.
with the committee. Sure.
That would be great, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good. So I think we just have enough time to consider approval of minutes. So I will entertain a motion to approve open session minutes of January 3rd, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Gagliardi and seconded by Mr. Larrabee. Is there any discussion? In the absence of discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Secondly, I'll entertain a motion to approve the joint open session minutes of January 3rd, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Gagliardi and seconded by Mr. Larrabee. Any discussion? In the absence of discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And finally, joint executive session minutes of January 3rd, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Gagliardi, seconded by Mr. Larrabee. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Are there any topics there are no topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting? Does anyone have any action items for future meetings?
Definitely we want to focus on the superintendent's
Yeah.
report. Yeah.
Okay. That will be the top of the agenda our next meeting. All right. If there's no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Gagliardi, seconded by Mr. Larrabee. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you everyone for coming.